Hello and welcome to the 5-Year Plan podcast.
Hey!
Yeah. Pod 260, sponsored by Vector Printing for your print and embroidery needs. Go to vector.co.uk. It's Vector with a
K.
Hey.
And JCIS, the global research and brand consultancy from South London. Visit jc-is.com.
I will.
Ah, nicely
Yes.
done. Travis Endicott,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm very good. Very, very, very good.
Good. It's been a while since we've seen you.
Yeah, well, the stag, wasn't it? Yeah.
The tag, yeah.
Game at Sellers where we won.
Big game, yeah.
Setting the tone for the season, hopefully.
Nicely done. I like that very much. Andy Street?
Hello. I'm feeling a bit strange because I'm sitting in Kevin's seat.
You are, yeah.
So I feel like I need to have an inner contradiction within every single sentence and forget how to pronounce albeit. And then I feel like I've filled his mantle.
And he's not here to
He's
defend
not
himself.
here. And he doesn't listen. So I can libel him as much as I want.
Carte blanche to do
And he
whatever
can't
you
sue
want.
me. Hi, Kevin.
And back on the pod for, I've lost count how many times.
Third time, I think.
Oh, is it only third?
Oh,
Feels
yeah.
like you've been here more often. Feels like you're part of the family. It's Dom
very much.
Fifield.
Hey.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Do you know what? I'm doing good. I'm
Is it your
doing
first
very
full
good.
pod, though?
No, it's the
No,
third
no.
full pod.
Yeah. Come on, mate.
Oh, wow.
I think actually
Do I not get invited
I
anymore?
think we replaced you when we got off each time, actually.
Still once a month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so, yeah.
I am feeling very good because Palace got off to a perfect start to the season. A 1-0 win at Fulham. Do you want to talk about that? Or do you want to talk about the big news that broke literally about 2 hours before this pod, which is that Wilf Zaha has signed a new deal? Should we talk about that instead?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's go straight into that. Wilf has signed a 5-year deal, so keeping him at Palace till 2023. Dom, it's pretty big news for Palace, really, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah. It's absolutely. It's been on the cards. It was mentioned at the end of last season. My colleague Ed Aarons, to big him up, he wrote a little piece would have been towards the end of May, I think, saying that Palace were going to offer him a new deal, and then obviously it went quiet, and I think people drew their own conclusions from the deathly silence. As it transpires, I don't know, it was very pleasant news. It did drop a bit out of the blue today, so the club will be chuffed to bits on that front as well. As a journalist, I'm cursing, but, but no, it's brilliant. It's brilliant news. I mean, it's the best thing about it is there's no release clause. Not that there would ever have been one, because why would Palace had him under contract for another 4 years without the release clause anyway? So why would they suddenly want one inserted? It maintains his value. And I think hopefully we'll see Wilfred Zaha's best years at Crystal Palace.
Does it make him the highest paid player at
Yeah, I
Palace?
believe so, yeah. But I mean, I think he was pretty close to that anyway. I think he's probably overtaken Christian Benteke now.
Yeah.
So, yes, well, and fully deserved, because, look, I mean, the record says it all, doesn't it? Didn't get a point without him last season. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's we talked about the transfer window on the pod previously, Andy, and obviously the players he brought in, but keeping Wilf really was kind of maybe number one target this summer.
I think you've got to say yes for all the commentary there's been amongst Palace fans and pundits that it creates a slight imbalance in the squad, having one player who's so dominant and who obviously takes up so much of the wage budget and upon whom you're so dependent. It's very difficult to do that rebalancing act all of a sudden overnight. And as we saw, and I think we mentioned in the last pod with Tottenham, when all of a sudden they got 90 million in for Gareth Bale, everyone immediately knows, unless you've planned it all really far in advance, to do the deal at the start of the window and who you're going to bring in to replace that player, which would usually be a number of players. It's very easy to then get completely ripped off by everyone else in the market that you go to with a set of pockets bulging with 80 million quid. My view was always that the later it got in the window, the less likely it was that it was going to happen, because you just don't do that sort of thing in the last few days. It wouldn't have made much sense at all. And equally, I do think there was very little of an available market for Wilf. There are not many clubs who have the cash reserves to pay for a player who's going to be 60 million quid plus from a team in the Premier League who are outside the top six and who don't have players of that talent level already, or who can go to continental clubs and get a £20 million discount on similar types of player. And because of that, it's slightly unfortunate for Wilf in that maybe sort of 10 years ago there would have been a number of top six teams who would have come in for him, and it would have made economic sense for them to do so. But Steve Parish said, I think in the Standard yesterday, well, he's worth more to us than he probably is to anyone else. And I think there's a huge amount of truth in that.
Yeah. Do we know how much Palace would accept for him? Or would have done, or is it priceless?
I don't think it was ever discussed, but the reality was, the speculation was always 70 million, but 70 million was, I mean, that's peanuts for what Wilf Zaha is worth for Crystal Palace. It was never really about what other clubs valued Zaha at. It was about what Palace valued him at and what he was worth to them. Yeah. And if you look at what Staying Up was worth, £120 million, well, there you go. There's your starting price, and then you build on top of that. So throughout it all, I mean, at Tottenham, West Ham mystifyingly, and Everton were the clubs that were linked over the summer. The only time that it felt slightly nervous was when Chelsea's name was mentioned, because having covered Chelsea for 11 years now, they can suddenly pull something out of the bag. As we saw, indeed, in the last week of the window, they go and spend £71 million on a goalkeeper. Yeah. I mean, it's they have that capacity, but even then, I don't think even Zaha would look at Chelsea and think, well, I'm not going to get indulged at Chelsea as much as I am at Crystal Palace. I'm not going to be as integral. They've got Eden Hazard, they've got people like Willian, and within the setup, they've even got Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who was with a teammate of his last season. He's not going to have the same integral feel to him at Chelsea as he has at Palace, and I think that is appealing for any footballer.
Do you think, Travis, that like someone like Wilf just needs to be the big fish in the little pond to thrive? Needs to be kind of the man, and which he won't get anywhere else.
I think what's happened to him in the past has made him being knocked off at Man United soil and coming back, and the love that the club has for him, bringing him back up has almost moulded him into that person who does thrive off that. Maybe if he had succeeded in the past, he would be one of those players that didn't need to be that man, but because that's almost what's built him into the player he is today, it is a part of him. And he's more than just a player. So Tottenham fans, I know, and they've always been in the market the last few seasons, I always go, 60, 70, and they go, no, 35. And you go, he's not, definitely not. But you go, you don't understand because you don't understand what he's done for the club. He is Mr. Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Statues should be put up, stands names, like local streets.
Yeah.
They should print his face on tickets that they give to the away fans. He's Mr. Crystal Palace, and
I think that's the best idea I've ever heard for merchandising on the pod.
It's true, but he is more than a football player to the club. He makes the team what it is.
Yeah. Well, he means so much more than £100 million, £150 million. He means more than just being a player to Palace, doesn't he? In fact, can I actually give you a question from Grey Jogging Bottoms?
Hi,
Jacob. He says, do you think Wilf can be the South London Totti? Which is not a phrase that we said in this podcast before, certainly not in that context.
What sort of a one-club player?
Yeah. Or, South London Matt Letizia.
Well...
can you compare those two players?
How old is he now, 24?
25.
25?
Yeah.
I mean, with that deal and with the market being where it is, and given I think there's probably only two clubs who would ever have the cash reserves to buy him, realistically, where's he going to go? I mean, I think it's more likely than not, I would say, that he will stay at Crystal Palace for at least 3 of those 5 years, I would have thought.
You think, even if he has like a barnstorming season?
If he has the sort of season where he scores 25 Premier League goals, gets 15 assists, and it becomes irresistible to a top club to pay 80 million quid, say, then yeah, perhaps. But equally, he's not managed to stay fit for an entire season recently, and to play 38 games to do that. He had 2 spells of injury last season. Even with the level of protection now that referees are starting to give him, he doesn't get enough protection for the amount of kickings that he takes, so he will continue to pick up injuries.
Yeah.
And because of that, if he's going to have that breakout season, if he plays a 38-game season, you could quite well see him having that sort of Gareth Bale last season at Tottenham breakout season that takes into an elite club. But even then, there's such a tiny pool of elite clubs who have 100 million quid in cash now to spend on a player, that if you say to them, you've got 100 million quid to spend on one player, are they going to go and spend it on Wilf Zaha? I don't know, maybe, if he has that sort of season within the Premier League, but I don't see it at present.
What are the things that would lure him away? Is it simply just European football?
Well, I guess so. I mean, that's
the only thing else on offer, really, isn't it?
Relegation.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point. I mean, that negates the fact. I mean, if Palace go down, then obviously all bets are off. Yeah. But I think he's comfortable. There's a lot of mixed messages around Wilf. I've never got the impression that Wilfried Zaha has ever wanted to leave Crystal Palace. Particularly, he had the dalliance with Manchester United, and that obviously taught him things about life and indeed himself and his football career, I imagine. And yet there's always this sort of murmuring around it that he wants to go. He's told people he wants to go. He wants. And it's very interesting that the politics involved in that, because it's very easy for Crystal Palace fans to to blame the agent, for example, but Palace do a lot of deals with that agent and his agency, ins and outs of Crystal Palace. So again, that relationship is interesting with the hierarchy at Palace. So I mean, it's politically, it's intriguing. I don't want to say murky because it's not, but it's intriguing. And it sort of sums out how football is. And you sort of, one day you're best mates with one particular representative. The next day that representative is trying to take away your best player potentially.
Yeah.
So it's funny how it all works out. But I'm glad it's happened this way, and that we've guaranteed seeing him for a few more years.
Is it simply a case of some newspapers, and there are a few newspapers that Palace fans are not happy with at the moment, just using a player who's popular and in demand just to get a few clicks and stuff?
Personally, I don't. I know the media has this sort of, we're all about clickbait now. I don't think any journalist who works on a national newspaper is going to write a story if he hasn't been sourced. So somebody is telling them this. It's not just made up. It's nonsense. It isn't just made up. That's just not what happens. There's always somebody out there that is feeding information for a reason. You have part of the skill of being a journalist is to work out why you're being told stuff, and whether it's then worth pursuing that line or not. I mean, I don't like criticising other people's stories either, because, as I say, they trust their particular sources. I was told different information this summer. I wrote it my way. Others didn't. Each their own.
Julian Chenery.
Hi, Julian.
So should we put up a red and blue plaque outside of Wilf's old house around the corner from Villa Park where he grew up? That could be an option. And Michael Dunn.
Hi, Michael.
Says, how soon after the completion of the building of the main stand will it be named the Wilf Zaha main stand?
Well, there we go.
All good options, aren't they?
I still prefer the away tickets that have his face printed on them.
But we are kind of watching the blossoming of Palace's best ever player, or certainly Palace's most iconic player.
I think both, really. I think you would struggle to... Ian Wright obviously would be spoken of in a similar echelon if you looked at his whole career, but arguably lots of Palace fans would say he left a little bit before the time we would have necessarily wanted him to, and albeit that he'd started to reach his peak, he wasn't there for the duration of his peak. Wilf is at his peak now. If he stays for 2 more years, you'd say that he's been there for a good proportion of his peak, and I think he's every bit as iconic as any other player that we've ever had. If for no other reason, just the fact that I don't think I've ever seen a footballer who's so emotional on the pitch at all times. You've admittedly just gone 1-0 up against Fulham in the first game of the season, but the manner in which he celebrates with Jeffrey Schlupp for that goal, you would have thought that we just won the Champions League, and he's like that for every goal.
And a goal that he had nothing to do with.
Every single decision that he doesn't get from a referee, he looks like the most maligned man of all time. He takes everything so personally, and he gives so much out emotionally and takes so much to heart emotionally that it's difficult, to do anything but love him as a Palace fan.
Yeah, that's part of being a player of that quality, though, isn't it? You see it with Cristiano Ronaldo as well. Players that just like they're sort of wearing their heart on their sleeve without that kind of
and it gets
fire.
mistaken quite a lot of the time for the... every time he puts his hands up because he feels a knock, and it's like, it wasn't that bad in the replay. He wants everything, the passion, the drive to just want to win.
Yeah.
And everything like that can make you look so arrogant and so wrong at times when sometimes, you are. But, that's the thing. He loves playing for us. He wants to win. He wants to succeed. And you can see that in him. And he's managed to curb his outbursts a lot more. He's that player, just the physical maturity in him nowadays. And the maturity in the finish the other day, I think, as well. The timing of the shot, everything like that. His whole game he's becoming the player everyone's wanted him to be.
Yeah. But that spark, is that the sort of thing that elevates him from... We've seen a lot of players come through at Palace, haven't we, that we thought were good, but Wilf's got that little... that attitude that Andy's talking about, elevates him to the next level.
Yeah, well, it's that bit of passion. Well, it's the thing that's keeping him at the club. The fact that we see it and we love it. Yeah, I mean, I've got the beaming smile on my face. Now, I think says it all. I wish I could put it into words, but I can't. I'm lost for words how much I appreciate seeing him at the club and seeing him in his prime and seeing him play for us at the peak of us as being a club as well. And we've got someone like that who's homegrown, who stayed at the club and has been there, and he represents us so much.
Yeah, this is the thing. Wilf, arguably, in my opinion, our greatest ever player, certainly the best player I've seen, coinciding with Palace's best ever run in the top flight.
Well, they go hand in hand. I mean, I watched Ian Wright for Palace and the team that finished third in the top division, and that was brilliant. And you know, he was a live wire. He was just somebody you loved to watch because he was always capable of producing something out of nothing. But in recent years, I mean, I love that when Balassi and Zaha were tearing at people on the wings, that was fantastic in the Championship. But for what Wilf has done in the last few seasons is the best I've ever seen. The most thrilling, unpredictable. The way he just drives opposing defenders and fans to distraction is absolutely amazing. And it's not just us that appreciates it. I think there was an interesting tweet from Jonathan Northcroft at Sunday Times today. He said that he loves watching Wilfried Zaha play for Palace. I think that sums it up. It's the two, they're allied together, aren't they? They're married. They sort of fit. There's a perfect fit with those two, club and player. And I think he is iconic already.
In a way, it's almost Palace need Wilf, but Wilf needs Palace as well.
We hope so, don't we? But
Yeah.
he has done so far.
He has
but
done.
I mean, you know, there may be a point where he, as we've said, if he has one of those Gareth Bale style seasons, then maybe we. But I think he would go with Palace fans' blessing if that really was the case. And he, you know, we're talking like a Real Madrid would have to come in for him or something like that.
Is that ludicrous?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, he's got the talent. I think possibly that does, in isolation, that does sound a bit daft, but you never know. I mean, he has got the talent to produce something that eye-catching, and if he could do it, he does it consistently, which in fairness most Palace fans see him do consistently. It just seems to be convincing the outside world that he's got some end product, which we all know he does.
Yeah.
You never know. He's got the talent to thrive wherever.
Yeah. Hopefully it's still a Palace and not a Real Madrid. But he could.
We've just sold him to Real Madrid. I'm so sorry. Oh God.
But you were talking about elite clubs earlier, and really, if he has a barnstorming season, it probably is only the Barcelonas and the Real Madrids of this world, and that's not being sensationalist. And that is that realistic?
Equally, I mean, if we're going to sort of build on that Bale comparison, he obviously in his breakout season played for Tottenham in the Champions League, played for a team in the top four, so it's shown that he had that sort of elite mentality. And we as Palace fans might think it's very unfair that Wilf Zaha is judged based upon an unhappy period now 5 years ago. Is it 5 years? Something like 5 years now since he was at Man United. When he was very, very young and, you know, perhaps far more immature than he is now. But there is still that perception, it seems, amongst at least supporters, probably some coaches, and certainly some within hierarchies at clubs. You would have thought that he's shown already once that he's not an elite level player. Is there a risk of some sort?
That was 5 years ago.
It was 5 years ago, but it's still going to be in the back of someone's mind. If I'm sort of in a position where I might be spending 100 million quid on a player, and I know that the only instance in which he's been at an equivalent club to mine, he's failed at, albeit at a far younger age, it's going to put at least a seed of doubt there.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
How much as a player, though, would he read into that? How much do you think it would fire him up and gives him that fire in his belly to be that passionate player that we see wanting to succeed and be so? Because it does seem like one of those players that is... No one can forgive him. There's nothing you can do to change anyone's mind about what he's like, whether it's the diving, whether it's him being a failure. Every single post you ever see about him will have somebody commenting, he's just a fail. He failed at the top four club. He can never make it. When he was how old? So you know,
He was 20.
Exactly.
But footballers
It's
they are quite sort of not narrow-minded, but they're very focused on it. The cliche of them taking one game at a time is entirely true, isn't it? They literally go one game at a time and try and be focused. So he might not care about that. He might literally just be thinking, I'm improving as I can at Palace. But it might drive him on. I mean, he looks, as you said earlier, he looks so passionate and fiery. Something's got to be driving him. And maybe it is that failed time at Man United. And maybe that, whatever it was, 6-month spell at United that went so badly for him was possibly the best thing that ever happened for his career.
Well, if I was Wilfried Zaha now, 7:30 in the evening, I'd be, having my feet up on the sofa with a cup of tea, just scrolling through Twitter, laughing, and everyone's going, because I think he knows he's the player that everyone thinks he isn't, and he knows how wrong people are. Maybe it's just that keeps him going, just thinking I can keep proving you guys wrong. It's the wind up almost.
Yeah, but he literally does the
knowing
wind up.
that people.
Yeah. What was the home game? Was
Watford.
it Watford when he cupped his ears to the fans?
The enjoyment factor with him is so obvious, isn't it? He just wears it in front of everybody, and I think that does make him even
Ronaldo
more
thriving in
endearing.
that opening season when people would boo him, and you just go, if you boo him, it's going to rile him up. The fact that he knows that people don't like him and thinks he's this and thinks he's that,
I wasn't even aware. Fulham fans were giving him grief the other day. I mean,
Really?
it's
Fulham fans never say anything.
Well, believe me, they were. He went down the touchline just in front of the press box and was listening to the crowd. I mean, he was sat there looking at people who were screaming abuse at him, and it's literally every. If it happens at Fulham, it's literally happening everywhere. It's happening in Tesco's probably. I mean, but yeah, it does seem to drive him on.
It adds to the sort of pantomime of football, doesn't it? And you got Wilf is almost this panto villain for some people and this hero for us. But it adds to the whole spectacle of it.
Does it? I've got no reason. He's never been sent off, has he, for Palace? When he got booked
I
on,
think he has.
Has he?
Once.
Away at Burnley?
Was it?
For kicking out, possibly?
Yeah, but that was in Championship, wasn't it?
In Championship, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, not since we've come up.
Not
No,
since
he
it's
said
come up.
no.
No.
I remember there was an incident against Leeds, wasn't there, in the Championship season, last Championship season, where there was a retrospective.
He put his finger up at the
got
crowd.
retrospective
Yeah,
back.
Yeah. But on Saturday he got booked first half, and the way he is, he lives on the edge, doesn't he? I mean, and there are times where I watch him and think, oh God, what's he doing? What's he doing? Well, just stay on your feet. Just don't give them an opportunity. But it doesn't seem to affect him. He just thrives. His game didn't change after the booking on Saturday. He just carried on tormenting fullbacks, and if they hurt him, he went down.
I thought that about the Watford game last season, because in the first 5 minutes, it looked like the Watford fans were getting to him. He cupped his ears. He may have got booked or certainly kind of got decisions against him. And I remember thinking, Wilf, your head is not in the game today. And it was like that for 85 minutes.
When he's focused, he turns it, doesn't it? And I mean, it's almost like Luca. I think Luca had a word with him at that game, didn't he? And he just tried to focus him again. But it needs sometimes a player on the pitch just to say, Wilf, remember what you're good at.
And Damo used to do that, didn't he?
Yeah, true.
When he was around.
True.
Okay, last couple of questions, and then we will review the Fulham game as well. Jack Aubrey
Hi, Jack.
says Palace had less than 2.4 shots. I'm going to put this on the street. It's a stats-based question. Less than 2.4 shots on target a game when Zaha didn't play last season. How risky is building the team around Wilf and having so much focus on him as a star player if we don't create as much without him if he gets a mid to long-term injury, for example?
Yeah, but as I've sort of intimated a little bit earlier in this part, it's incredibly difficult to rebalance a squad unless you're doing it over a 5-year period away from a player as pivotal as Wilf Zaha. Yes, it's very marked. We aren't very good with Wilf Zaha. We're very good with Wilf Zaha. I mean, you don't even need to look to the stats to see that. It's demonstrably obvious every time you just watch us play.
Yeah.
We just have to pray that he doesn't get an injury of some sort, I suppose.
Yeah.
But how do you replace a player like that who is not just pivotal in terms of his impact, but just is integral to the sort of shape and the way that we play as well? It's very difficult to think that there would be someone that you could substitute for him who would do an equivalent job in an equivalent manner. You'd have to completely re-engineer the team.
Yeah.
Which is what Spurs ended up doing. They got it wrong first time. I think it was 7 players?
Yes.
Of which Ericsson was the only one that was a success.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then 5 years later, they finally got a team that they're thriving with.
So it's very difficult to have a backup plan that's completely different to the way you play now.
Well, and especially if you're a mid-level club like Crystal Palace. You know, similarly, Leicester are probably going to find it to a certain extent now that Mahrez is gone. They're going to find it difficult to find quite the level of creativity and the ability to get the ball into their front men like they used to and to break through the lines in the way that they did with Mahrez. But they've got a lot more cash than we have. They're able to go out into the market and spend 70 million quid every transfer window. The clubs at sort of Palace's equivalent level, well, there aren't that many clubs at Palace's equivalent level in terms of the amount that we pay and how we sort of try slightly punch above our weight. We don't spend lots of money on 4 £20 million players every single transfer window. We might buy one £30 million player every other window, and you'll probably see that being more and more the case with Palace. So it makes it kind of difficult to envisage how you could do things particularly differently, really, I think. Yeah,
that's a good assessment. And final question then is from Max, well, in this part, Max Wildenberg.
Hi, Max.
And I put this to Travis. He simply says, is Zaha human?
Ooh.
Bit of breach of FA rules, that, surely.
No, he's not human. He's definitely not human. No. I think that's
Does some
all we
pretty
need to say.
inhumane
That's all we need
things
to
to
say.
people. Fullbacks.
He's a star man.
He's a star man.
Yeah.
Playing on the wherever.
You've just stolen Andrews' song. He's had it under a week and you've given it to someone else.
Welcome back to the 5-Year Plan podcast.
Hey.
Pod 260, sponsored by Vector Printing. For your printing embroidery needs, go to vector.co.uk. Vector with a
K.
Nice. And JCIS, a global research and brand consultancy from South London. Visit jc-is.com.
I will.
Oh, very confident I will. I like that. That was lovely. So, questions from our listeners. Now, we've gone just over half an hour without mentioning a particular Palace player. I think we all know who it is and
Stuart
who's going to be
O'Keefe.
answering this one. The question comes from Kevin Benson.
Hi, Kev.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
Old school reference there for the listeners from 7 years ago. Thank you.
How can anyone forget Stuart O'Keefe?
Exactly.
Yeah. He says, so much angst about Wayne Hennessy last season. Why has he improved so much? And will Guaita get a game if Wayne keeps on playing like this? Cheers from New Zealand. Oh, hello to Kevin in New Zealand. Andy, Wayne. He had a very, very, very good game on Saturday, arguably man of the match. And what I said in the post-match pod was that he was pulling off saves you'd expect him to make, but for criticisms he had last season, he was pulling off saves you wouldn't expect him to make as well. Is that a fair assessment?
He played very well, yeah.
Any more?
I think it's an impossible subject now, Wayne Hennessy, to have anything like an objective conversation on, to the extent that I get sent tweets when he makes a save, which is a bit bizarre for me because I don't really use Twitter that much anymore. So every single time he pulls off a save, I see a bunch of notifications, which is lovely. He pulled off a couple of decent ones. I thought the one particularly from Mitrovic, where he sort of dinks it over Tonkins and Wayne has to get down pretty quickly, is a very competent save. He didn't make any mistakes, and that's what you want from a Premier League goalkeeper. Whether or not he is able to maintain that, I've just always got very serious doubts about, and I think I've said ad nauseum what I think the technical flaws that he has are.
But he's got
at the moment you can't drop him, and there's an element where, yeah, a lot of it will be a function of the defence that he's playing behind, which are exceptionally good by Palace standards, and it's no coincidence that he's started looking competent. I wouldn't say looks remarkable, but looks competent since he's been playing behind Saka and Tompkins. And you kind of think, well, lots of goalkeepers would look competent behind him, but ultimately you got a new goalkeeper in now who hasn't yet had the benefit of playing a lot with that squad or of training a huge amount. And given Wayne's kept a clean sheet there, ended the last season in a competent manner again, he's the number one shirt is his, regrettably, at the moment.
I guess without kind of, working behind the scenes at the club or being on the training ground, it's difficult to pinpoint why Wayne has improved so much. And he was good towards the end of last season as well. Do we think it might be Dean Kiley coming in? Do we think it might be a player like Guaita being there as competition, the defence, a number of things?
It's probably going to be a combination of all of them, you would have thought. I mean, he certainly looks a bit fitter to me. I don't know whether he's lost weight or not, but he certainly looks slightly more lively around his goal mouth. And whether or not it's down to Dean Kiley, certainly happened in the same sort of time frame since Dean Kiley has come in. And yeah, ultimately, Hennessy has known since January that a new goalkeeper was coming in the summer.
Yeah.
And that he would either have to step up his game or that he'd be out. And, he had obviously the confidence booster of the new deal that he got. And securing his future by that. I mean, he'll probably do better with his confidence if he doesn't ever check Instagram when our fans are commenting upon him, which is...
Well, that's probably the same for most Palace players, isn't it? The way fans are.
But yeah, it's just going to be a combination of things. I think people still need to be a little bit realistic about it. He's still a goalkeeper who has very clear limitations at the very top level. If you want to be a top 10 team, he will at some point do something bad.
Do we think, Dom, that Guaita will feature much, or again, if Wayne stays in this form, it's hard to drop him? Do we know kind of how Palace see Guaita in terms of his introduction?
I think he was bought as a first choice. I don't think you bring somebody who's just finished top half in La Liga to the club. You entice him away from Madrid, Getafe, and bring him in as second choice. That doesn't happen. I fully expect him once the communication skills and the understanding, and he can express himself on the pitch and inspire confidence in a back line. I imagine he'll be in the team. And Wayne's problem is, of course, that the first mistake he makes, he's toast. Unfortunately, that's a pressure that he's having to deal with. And look, at the moment, it's driving him on. Clearly, I thought it was great. at the weekend. He occasionally still pours the ball out into play a bit too much. You want to see him push it a bit wider, but you know, he didn't concede in a game where Fulham had quite a few shots. Let's see what Liverpool do them on Monday.
It's interesting as well that when we had Mandanda come in, he more or less went straight into the team. Yeah. McCarthy went more or less straight into the team, didn't?
But Mandanda didn't though, did he?
Did he not?
Mandanda made his debut in a League Cup game at around this time of the year against Blackpool, and it was Hennessy who started that season. I'm pretty sure in the side. Mandanda only came. He had a spell. I can't remember which Premier League game. It was Bournemouth was his debut, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Scott Dan scored in the last minute.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think that was right at the end of August. So the first few league games of that season, Pardew gave the English speaker a chance to start the season. I can't remember. We lost. Oh, it's going back too far. But obviously Mandanda was brought in to be number one as well, and that didn't work out for different reasons. But Gaita will establish himself, I'm pretty sure.
Have you seen much of him?
I only watched that on the television last season. I saw him keep a clean sheet at Barcelona.
Saved the penalty from Messi, didn't he? I think.
So he's probably quite good then.
Messi's not very good at penalties.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. But Trav, even the Palace fans were singing Wayne's name at the weekend, you know, and he probably wouldn't have expected that.
I vomited in my mouth if I could.
He does. That was happening a lot last season. It does seem to happen because he does get a lot of stick, and I think the Palace fans do get behind him quite a lot. You saw it quite a few times last season, actually. The Holmesdale chanting his name from behind him, telling him when he has a good game, pulls off a good save, or has made a mistake in the first half. That's one of those types of things. But I mean, there is that backup now, so to see him chanting it still. But it was like we were saying earlier, that continuing on from last season, that he's goalkeeper is an integral part of the spine of the team, as well as having a solid person at centre back, a solid person in central midfield, and having someone that can score a few goals up front. That spine, he's an integral part of it. If we're going to continue on, and if we continue winning, I don't see any reason to drop him. But I do think it'll be the case of once he has that first bad game,
he's out.
Yeah, I do think.
Speaking of that spine, then Travis, Chris Walter.
Hi, Chris.
Says, did you see enough from a rejuvenated Benteke on Saturday to suggest he can have a great season for Palace? And in brackets, 15 plus goals. Looks a bit more confident, doesn't he? I saw him in the Toulouse game when he scored, and that looked much better. He can't have as bad a season as last season, surely.
I mean, you would hope not. I mean, if he does, then it is. We'll be struggling. Soloff, had an average pre-season as well. Nothing special that's going to push him out into the team yet. Benteke, I don't know. He had that one header in the first half that got clipped over the bar. Yeah. Was there another opportunity?
He set up Wilf for sort of a half volley.
Yeah,
but he hasn't had a sitter yet. There was a couple of times last season where there was pretty much sitters that he was missing. And in pre-season, he's had a couple of times where he's been in those positions and he's slotted them away. I think he just needs to completely put it to the back of his mind.
Yeah.
And move on with it. But, maybe the 4-4-2 up front isn't going to allow him to score as many goals. Because the season when he did score a lot, we were playing, you just had two wingers pinging it into them the whole time. Yeah. Zaha might be the goal scorer this season. And Benteke might play a different role, and add a lot more in terms of assists, than you would think. Little knockdowns and
there weren't that many crosses that went into the box, were there? I mean, that Townsend one for the header was the best cross that England.
Yeah, if you have a deep looping cross, he will rise in between two defenders and
he'll probably get it.
Yeah, if it passes the goalkeeper, he's guaranteed to get on the end of it.
I do wonder why Palace don't do that more often, because 9 times out of 10 he will win that header.
Does Roy has he ever played with out-and-out wingers particularly? I don't think that Fulham team had out-and-out wingers. Zoltan Gera was on one flank, wasn't he?
We do play really narrow as well.
Duff played, actually in fairness, he did play with one. Yeah.
Townsend and Schlupp did play quite narrow as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Schlupp, the positioning when he picked up the ball for his goal, he's on the left wing there and he's in around the centre circle when he picks up or something.
Because I don't think Palace fans would... I mean, I personally think the football we've played under Roy in the last 6 months or so, it's been some of the best we've seen at Palace, considering most people think Roy is quite a sort of direct, old-fashioned manager. But Palace fans wouldn't be upset if during games when it wasn't working, they just went more direct to Benteke, because whether it's a flick on or a header towards goal, he's going to win it.
Yeah. Just bring back Damien Delaney from Cork if we're going to do that. Start feeling nostalgic. Yeah, the thing I like now is there's lots of different options. There's different options across the front line, bringing in Ayew, for example. You can slot him in and do something a bit different there. Wilf could, if necessary, be dropped out wide, and you could go to that 3 if you really wanted to. I don't really see Roy doing that. I think he'll probably persevere with the sort of shape that he had in the game on Saturday. But you've now got multiple midfield options. You could have Kouyaté playing, and one of him and Maya being either out wide and tucking in, as Loftus-Cheek did at times last season, or being part of a middle two with Luca. There's all sorts of things we can do now, and that Roy can do, and I think he'll like that. He's very much the sort of guy who has made his feelings clear about not having options at times. So the ability now to actually switch things up, I think he'll find quite welcome.
Having a lot of players that can play multiple positions on the field as well competently is a big thing.
Yeah. Speaking of one of them then, PC Wires,
Hi, PC.
that's the person emailing in, not the player, says, after a cracking finish to secure his first competitive goal for Palace, was it really? Is anybody else wondering who he is and what he's done to the real Jeffrey Schlupp? Bit harsh on Schlupp, I think he's been all right. But he's been a revelation.
Is that his first competitive goal for Palace?
Yeah.
Apparently so.
He scored one in pre-season. That was his first goal.
Wow.
Crazy. But he has, and he's
Playing left back a lot of the time.
Yeah,
isn't he?
yeah.
It's not-
yeah, true. Yeah.
I mean, he was brought in when Suarez got injured. It was Allardyce that brought in him and Van Aanholt, and
Yeah.
they both alternated at left back. But I mean, they're both similar players. They can both play on the left wing and at left back.
But Schlupp can play everywhere. He can play centre mid.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was playing very narrow.
Yeah, he can play.
On the
He has
weekend.
been. He's been brilliant. Sort of one of the players gone a bit under the radar, I guess, recently, Street. But I think it's been great.
I've sometimes found him infuriating since he's been at Palace, and I've sometimes thought there's a really good player there. I think that's probably testament to why he's sort of sometimes in the team, sometimes not in the team. Yeah. When he's on it, he's very, very good at this level. When he's not, you want to sub him off straight away. But on Saturday, I thought he was very good. And it's nice again, as you say, that we've got the option of, if Patrick is injured, playing him at left back. If someone's not available to fill in the central midfield, he can provide the legs at times there. He can fill in out wide as well, and he seems to not mind filling any of those roles, and certainly goes about them with the minimum of fuss and actually putting in diligence in all instances. So. Yeah, not really got too many bad things to say about
He's
Jeffrey
also
Schlupp.
listed as a defender on fantasy football, so I don't know if anyone wants to take a note on that, because he might score some goals. He feels like a very sort of Roy player to me. Dom.
Yeah, the versatility comes into that, definitely, the energy. He's done well. He's done well to play in central midfield. I mean, keeping that place in central midfield or even on the left is going to be a challenge for him when Meyer and Kouyaté are fully up and running. But the same could be said for Jimmy McArthur. He's been superb for a long time, but presumably now his place is under threat as well, ultimately. But they're very much Roy type of players, industrious, triers, and they're reaping rewards.
Who would, given if they were all fit, if Meyer was fit and Kouyaté was fit, who would be your first choice in there? Because there's some decent options in there now.
I get the impression that he's brought Meyer in to be his Danny Murphy. And play deep lying, as in central. Mm-hmm. But that might be in a 3. If that's in a 3, then that gets, you can have Luca as the anchor, and you can play Meyer on one side and Kouyaté or McArthur on the other, I guess. But or even
I would have
Schlupp.
McArthur there all day.
I have no idea. That's quite a nice luxury at the moment. I look at it and go, I don't know who I'd pick.
I just want some injuries just to make it simple.
Give us something to whinge about. How have we not managed to stay injury-free all season? It's a disgrace.
There's always Connor.
Who looks back? Looks sort of almost...
Who's going to be the first to use like a new signing as a cliche here?
You?
It could be like a new signing.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, so could Benteke.
Well, you kind of hope so.
Yeah.
Because if it's the same signing
Can't
as
be
last
any worse
season.
than last season.
Yeah.
That was one of the happiest stories of the summer, though, wasn't it? When he played for the first time in was it 609 days?
Is that what it was?
Yeah, since the Swansea game.
Wow.
And he had that run out. Obviously, he's picked up a bit of a thigh strain since, but he'll be back soon.
You
enough.
always worry with Connor that any injury he picks up.
Yeah, but it's not
When
as
you've
bad
had
as a knee ligament.
when you've had as bad a set of injuries as him, there's going to be all sorts of reflective problems on an ongoing basis. You just kind of hope that with the right physio and the right rehabilitation, that eventually he'll sort of sort them out, because he's an excellent player. If you can keep him fit, we've seen enough of him already at Palace to show that he's a decent finisher. He's every bit as mobile as Benteke and can be as much of a handful, but got to get him on the pitch.
Oh, there's some players, Travis, that just like their whole career is defined by injuries. Johnny Williams, for example. Some players that just they can't like shake off those
You see a
injury
lot of
niggles.
players as well that don't have any injuries and then do get a serious one and then never the same again.
Yeah.
And he has had a very serious injury, and through struggling with little niggles before that as well, it's he's never going to be injury free for the rest of his career, I think. Yeah, I wouldn't put any money on that at all. But
It's like a
I
new
do,
signing.
he can offer things. You know, he has scored some cracking goals for us. The goal against Watford as well. He scored some important goals for us.
The West Brom one, where he absolutely
Yeah,
rifled
absolutely
it.
pelted it. There was a couple of games where he scored, and then he scored that brace against Sunderland as well.
Yep.
And that he scored a cracking goal in that.
And lest we forget, he got us into an FA Cup final.
Yeah. With towering header.
Yeah.
He is one of those players that, you know, give him a few run-outs. He does hit a little bit of form for a few games. I think he kept Sunderland up single-handedly one season before we signed him.
Yeah.
Had that break of 6 or 7 games. So, you know, he's always a good option to have. But I think with our centre forwards at the moment, I think that's the reason why I always sign. They're all quite similar players, all quite big in the air, hold up type of guys, not as fast or as quick, and you know you're not going to put the ball over the back line for them.
Maybe that's why Roy's sort of liking playing Wilf further forward, because he's different to those kind of guys.
That's why I think you can come in as well.
When you can torment defenders the way that Wilf can, it almost seems a waste having him out wide. That you know, yes, he can then get to the byline and get a cross in, or if he's cutting in from the left, potentially have a shot. But he does so much damage in central areas that you're kind of limiting him by not saying, do you know what, Wilf, just go wherever the hell you want and cause chaos all over the pitch.
Yeah.
And that seems to now be the case. There was a pretty marked stat, I think, last season of his rate of tackles and interceptions last season in comparison to the season before, and it just fallen off a cliff because clearly he'd been told, look, don't worry about the defensive side so much, the rest of the team can take care of that, you stay in an advanced position, you don't have to worry about being ultra disciplined, because that's ultimately what a wide player's going to have to do to a certain extent. Every time there's an overload and a double up, they're going to have to go back and help out their fullback. You don't want Wilf on the edge of your own penalty area tracking runs. You want him bombing on the break. So I don't ever see him being fully converted back to a wing again, personally.
Do you think this is the best position for him?
Yeah.
He seems to be enjoying it as well. So if he's happy, we're happy.
He can do the other job, frankly. He can do the other job. But it's like that was one of the things that was always said about him. He doesn't do his defensive work, and when he does play on the wing, he can do the job perfectly. Then he does do his defensive work. But I mean, like you said, he can play every position perfectly. I'm sure if you're winning goal, he could get the number one spot there the way he plays.
I'd be up for that.
Okay, the next question is from Jamie Penston Raja.
Hi, Jamie.
He says, who is the most changed / improved player since the opening game of last season? Very different opening game.
Andros, possibly?
Potentially. Or
good- yeah.
Patrick Van Arnholt, you've got to say.
Yeah.
He was, obviously everyone's been talking about AWB from Saturday, and he was excellent. But Patrick Van Arnholt now looks like an incredibly composed, very good Premier League level fullback, which at the early stages of last season he didn't. And he's become sort of more and more important to the point now where if he got injured, although Schlupp would be able to fill in quite nicely, you'd be a little bit disappointed actually.
Yeah.
So I'd go PVA.
Trav?
No, I actually have to agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
I just still think it's amazing that did we go into that game against Huddersfield with Riedewald and Fosu Mensah, just joined Fosu Mensah that week as two of the back three.
Yes.
Oh, with Luca as the other one.
Yeah.
Was Luca the third one?
Yeah,
was it Luca?
I think he was, wasn't he?
Or maybe Fossey Benson might have been at right wing back.
Possibly.
No, Townsend was at right wing back, wasn't he?
No, wasn't Ward at right wing back?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, Ward. I think Ward. Yeah, maybe.
I can't think why the ball didn't last longer,
Ward,
frankly.
Ward wasn't right.
I don't
wasn't
think
he?
Luke. I think Luke only played in the back three during the pre-season.
Okay.
He did against West
Scott Dam
Brom, I
played,
think.
didn't he? I think Scott Dam
Okay.
started that game.
Okay.
But I mean, to be honest, I know he didn't play that day, but I can't look beyond James Tompkins as an improved player.
Yeah.
He's an absolute revelation.
Yeah.
And there are West Ham fans still cursing now that he was allowed to leave for as little as he did. I mean, 10 million or whatever it was a snip because he's.
Didn't even get Patrick Bamford for 10 million these days, and we've got one of the most consistent Premier League centre backs for that.
He's brilliant. I mean, it helps him, I think, to have Sacco alongside him, and that's obviously a very, very good partnership in terms of the understanding they've allowed to develop. But Palace have got a few options there as well because Scott Dam will be back in October time, fingers crossed. And I've always loved watching Scott play as well.
Yeah.
So
And then Martin Kelly's still around.
and Martin Kelly is Mr. Consistency when he plays. He never lets them down. So Gyro's not going to be getting back into that back four for a while.
So just on that though, because Jamie sent us another question. He said, "What has happened to the diverse squad from last year? Watching the Fulham game, it looks like a whole new host of players. What sorcery does Roy possess to change them so completely? Because it's pretty much it is that same bunch of players, isn't it?
Broadly, I
Pretty
mean,
much.
it's
Different
obviously
positions, different systems.
the two loanees who at least sort of looked like they might be important under the ball are now not there. Obviously, Riedewald is now doing what Riedewald was going to do, which is probably not play a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't go out on either on loan or on a permanent move to Swansea, as had been mooted earlier in the window. Ultimately, if you don't play your team in a completely ridiculous shape, you play to your strengths, and you don't plug players in immediately upon their signing in positions with which they're not necessarily familiar, in a system with which they're not necessarily familiar, they might not look terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Right, final few questions then for this part. Alex Burt,
Right,
Alex.
and a lot of people have asked this as well, said, what are our realistic expectations for the season, seeing as this is probably our strongest ever squad? And this is a question that we asked in pre-season as well, Dom, but has anything changed from watching that first game of the season for you in terms of expectations?
No, not really. I mean, we won up Norwich a few years back, didn't we, in the first day away from home, and ended up struggling that season as well. I just think, what Palace desperately need and what the hierarchy there want is a season without so much angst, without so much
Drama.
Yeah, just get off to a good start. You get into mid-table. I don't think there's any reason why Palace would fall away like say Watford have done in recent years, and Watford are never in the relegation scrap until the last 3 months, and even then they probably only need one win to stay safe. I think if Palace got to that, they might be in a position where they could push on and do what Burnley did as opposed to what Watford do. I think I'm always pessimistic. I'm one of the world's pessimists, unfortunately, but I do think there's enough about this team and this squad to steer well clear of trouble, not least because of the coaching staff. The coaching staff are the key. That and Wilf.